Megan, Bill, thank you for being here today. We'd love to know, how did you all first meet in New Orleans?
So, we actually worked at a distillery together in New Orleans, and at the time I was like the events manager, but also bartending. And Bill was a server, and actually trained Bill to become a bartender. And really just bonded over like a love of hospitality and food. Like loved going out in New Orleans and trying new places and getting drinks and stuff like that. Um, I mean, we've basically been inseparable since we've met, so.
Yeah, it's great. My wife, Caitlin, we actually met in the restaurant scene as well. So I definitely have
Nice.
affinity. She didn't teach me anything. She just yelled at me all the time because I was the bar back and busboy. So, but I always made sure to like do extra for her tables. And that's
Same.
how, like, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna work really hard for you, you know?
Yeah. I was serving and then she kept getting promoted up. And so it
Yeah.
was like I was constantly trying to go above and beyond when she was around,
Yeah.
kind of showing off a little bit, but it was
Yeah.
awesome.
That's nice. I love that. So how was it like being trained by Megan?
It was great. I mean,
Yeah.
she's super meticulous, detail oriented, whereas I'm one of those people like, get it in the ballpark, everything's good. And so figuring out like from a bartending standpoint, everything is, incremental. And so learning the basis of balancing cocktails and learning all of that from her was really neat. There was like an immediate attraction and it was just a matter of like the right time. So it was really fun. It was really fun, especially in New Orleans. I mean, we worked at a distillery that did vodka, gin, and rum. So just food and beverage is what we do.
That's great.
I feel like that's still like true in our business. Like I'm the one who's very like, okay, this is like the measure of everything, and Bill's more like the creative one. Like he'll get excited about like recipes, and he did like 16 versions of our tonic syrup in order to figure out like exactly the best tonic syrup, So he's more of the like, I'm gonna throw it together and see what works guy.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely want to talk later. I have a couple questions about working together because I mean, me and my wife as well, co-founders together. And, it's definitely something that you have to have clear guardrails, and it's been a learning process working together. And anything that you can continue being successful for this long together is a huge testament. So definitely want to get into some of that. What I thought was interesting that you said was hospitality. Because I know a lot of people say, I just worked at a restaurant. And I bring this up because I just recently been reading that book, Unreasonable Hospitality. I love that book. Yeah.
I've read it.
Yeah, it's great. And if you haven't had a chance, definitely listen to an audiobook because he has like a great voice and the way it's very, very engaging. So what I thought was interesting, and I try to do the same things here in terms of hospitality, but I would love to learn more about like your stance on hospitality as a whole.
So for me, hospitality is an all-encompassing from the second the person enters a restaurant or a bar until they leave. It's not just the quality of the food. It's not, getting the order perfect. It's about making them feel like they're at home. You want to make people comfortable because at the end of the day, you're trying to make money. And so for me, it's when they walk in, being greeted warmly, being, shown attention, making sure that they feel important. And then executing at a high level. And so learning their name, being very social with them, very comforting, being timely, and understanding like social cues, nonverbal stuff is very, very important with hospitality. You see or hear someone drop a fork, don't go up and ask them if they need a new fork. Bring them a new fork. Of course they need a new fork. It's the little things like that that really set apart certain restaurants in hospitality. It's, you can be a great server, but people don't particularly like you. And so you have to make them feel comfortable. And I think that hospitality should be more of a gearing force for restaurants than just, get them in, get them out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with all that. I also think like something we always talk about is being able to like read what the customer wants. Like some people want to have a conversation and some people don't, and it's okay to go either way. Like if you have somebody who's really looking to like quietly have a meal by themselves, you can provide great service to them without needing to be like super friendly or in their face or anything. You can just make sure that they have exactly what they need at all times. And I think like just paying attention to what a customer is asking from you, even in our business comes into it, just like really listening to your customers and knowing like this is what they want, not necessarily what I want to give at the moment.
Yeah, that's what Will talks about in his book. He's like, you're not even going to notice that, like, the amount of effort and meticulous attention to detail, because exactly what you said, like, of course you need a new fork,
Yeah.
like, of course. But he goes intense. I'm on the one part where he's talking about how he has hand signs for like what type of water, if you want still water or sparkling, and they do it behind their back, and they do like a wiggle for sparkling. And I was like, wow, that's another level. And I think what I love about that is that it applies to other areas, and I really want to apply it here as well, just like different things like your coaster, or like even going into inspire me to get different waters as well. Like I want the, ooh, what kind of water? When I ask you what type of water, I want to be able to say like, still or sparkling. And I think I'm really, really big on that right now. And we'll definitely jump back into that later, but I would love to know more about the bar culture in New Orleans and how it compares to Richmond.
New Orleans bar culture is, in my opinion, something that is incomparable. It's so fast paced. You are in one of the most visited cities in the world. And so you're not just dealing with locals, you're not dealing with regulars every day. You're dealing with people who've traveled here, spending their money on flights and hotels, and they're expecting this grandeur, experience. And so when you're working in an environment like that, you have to be on at all times. You have an off day, it's fine, but you can't have a bad day. And so the bar culture there, it's insane. The constant turnover, the constant of just like, you have a festival on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The next week, the Saints have a home game. The next week, there's another festival. It's just so intense all the time. But with the turnover in restaurants happening as fast as it is, because there's so many, you have to be consistent in being able to work with literally everyone. It's wild.
There's not a lot of room for mediocrity there.
No.
Like I would say like one of the things specifically that happens in New Orleans is like people who are really good at their jobs, they're going to move up until they find that place where they're like, okay, this is my spot. And then they're there for years. Like there are people who work at bars for like 7 to 10 years. There are people who have been at bars for 20 years. Like it's a career there. And so like if you're good at your job, you're not staying at like somewhere that doesn't really know how to make a craft cocktail or whatever. Like that person is moving on. And so like as a bar or restaurant, you have to be conscious of that. You need to make sure that you are keeping things at a certain level so that you can maintain the people who want to work at those nice places. I think that was like probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced as a manager there was just like, okay, how do you keep these people who are actually skilled happy in their positions?
So where's that drive from? Because you say there's a lot of turnover, and it's like you're probably not going to see the same people. Like, it's not regular. It's like, where's the drive to be consistently good if there's such a high turnover of people you'll never see again?
The better you are, the more money you make. When you start off working in hospitality, you can't just go work at Commander's Palace. You start out at, a dive bar or a restaurant that's in need, and it's all about education. You're continuously, if you want to be good, it's just like anything else. You have to keep learning. You have to keep aspiring to break through with your education. And so for me, like I started at the Columns Hotel, didn't know anything about food and beverage or service. And when I left there, it was much more of it just wasn't a good fit, but I'd learned so much, and it's just exciting. It's so exciting working in restaurants because it's something new every day. And when you get better, your tip average goes up. So if you have 12 tables in a night and you're used to making 20%, but you have a great night and you make 35%, it's intoxicating.
And you went from the Columns to Petit Leon, right? That was your next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Petit Leon was like this hotel bar that was opening up that was like really trendy, and it was down in the CBD and people were excited about it. And so like same example of like, the Columns is a historic place. Bill goes from there to like this new trendy hotel that's opening up, and so it just sort of like happens like that, where you just sort of like slowly move through the ranks if you know what you're doing. But like you can make so much money in hospitality in New Orleans. Like my first Mardi Gras working as a bartender, I took just my Mardi Gras money and went to Australia for the month of August. Because
Nice.
August is dead in New
That's
Orleans.
nice. Yeah. And it ain't cheap in Australia. So
No.
Yeah.
That's
so like,
awesome.
you know, like you can do that. And that's something that like, you know, I mean, New Orleans pulls people in. Richmond, I think we're like trying to bring more people in, but it's not that sort of like tourist factory like New Orleans is. That kind of motivation is going to be hard to find in a place like this. Like there's nothing like a 2-week party where you make $10,000 and you're just like, cool, I'm taking a month off work, you know, like, so there's a drive that happens just naturally from that, where you're like I can live a certain like lifestyle and like do certain things, go to all the cool new places that are opening and whatnot because I'm good at my job and I make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a picture on my phone that pops up every year from my best night when I worked in the French Quarter at Justine. I made over $1,000.
Nice.
Yeah, and I
Nice.
think I had like 8 tables.
Yeah.
But I had businessmen in town for a conference. I still remember they bought 5 bottles of a Gevrey Chambertin that was just like $150 a piece.
Nice.
And then my last table was the Prince of Liechtenstein.
Yeah. Casual.
Yeah.
Casual.
Yeah. And so like,
so you never know who's going to show up.
And you know, you get your little sheet before and they hand it to you and it's like VVVIP.
Yeah.
And then you see 5 people walk in for a 4-top, 2 of them go sit at another table. You're like, who's this?
Yeah.
And it says royalty and you're like, whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
And so
awesome.
those moments are like, it makes it so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Is there a like a self-policing aspect to it? Like other restaurants are watching each other and like the level is that, or is it kind of within itself?
I think so. Especially I would say much more around like, you know, if someone has a really good cocktail menu, one of those other restaurant people will come in and be like, hey, who made this cocktail?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they might be like, hey, you know, like if you're ever looking for something different, we're hiring. And because they'll come in and, you know, try and poach people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I know
happens all the
that
time.
we did it at Lula.
We did. Yeah. We definitely like, you know, the owner of the restaurant was like, anytime you're out and you have a great experience, like you should be dropping a card and saying like, hey, you know, this is where I work. I think you'd be a great fit there. He was also really encouraging of like having people have experiences at restaurants that he perceived as better than ours in the city. And so like I remember one time he like gave me his card and he was like, you know, it'd be sort of maybe inappropriate for me to do this, but you're sort of the age of the staff. Why don't you go ahead and take 5 of the bartenders out to 3 places that you think make really great cocktails in the city and, you know, have conversations about what you're seeing at those bars, what's sort of like trending and what people are ordering and things like that, so that people can get inspired by things that are happening around the city. I think that like kind of education is essential. Like you can't be living in the bubble of what's happening in your restaurant or your business or whatever. You have to be like getting out there and seeing what else is going on.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always a huge proponent of, you know, checking in on your competitors and just seeing, not even just competitors, but like what's the industry doing? You know, like who's leading the industry. So that's really cool to see. I can just imagine there's probably like some crazy Facebook groups of like, oh, I saw so-and-so trying to poach, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
And
I
like,
imagine.
I can imagine it probably gets tough there, really intense. So what did an average night look like in your house in French Quarter together?
So we live 2 blocks off Bourbon Street on St. Peter. And so, goodness, it's just chaos. I mean, because a lot of people who visit there don't realize that people live there, like in those shotguns. And so we would open the door and there'd be 5 people sitting on our front stoop just drinking. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize anyone was here. And I'm like, you can stay here, pick up your trash, but you have to move because I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And so between, I don't know, like.
So if we were like, let's say, you know, a lot of the times both of us are at work on an average night. But let's say we're both off work. Like if we're staying in the French Quarter, we're probably going to start at somewhere like Manolito, which is still down there. Really cute little Cuban spot. They had like great daiquiris. It was like a 5-person bar, but you could just walk up and like grab a drink. And, you know, it's New Orleans. You can walk around with that drink. So you go to Manolito to start the night and get a drink, and normally get a to-go drink that we would then take to the next bar to a bartender that we know and be like, hey, this is from Manolito, you know? And a lot of times in the French Quarter, bartenders would pass drinks around. So like they'd be like, okay, well, here, where are you going next? Take this drink to this person or whatever. And our favorite bar was a couple blocks from our house. No longer exists, unfortunately, but the hospitality company that owned it still owns the building, and they have the Will and the Way there now. But it was Long Way Tavern, small spot, super small kitchen, but like some of the most amazing food I've ever had in my life, and made super fast friends with the bartenders there, like really quickly, and would go there a lot and hang out. And they had really amazing cocktails. I mean, there's one, the Green Colada, which is like a sort of like pina colada, but made into like a craft cocktail with green chartreuse in it that we still imitate at our house to this day. And, you know, then you go to the next bar and then you go get dinner or whatever. But then afterwards, when people are starting to get off of work, like, we would have people walk by our house and like knock on the window and see if anybody's in, and then people stop in for drinks or whatever. Like, it was just such a cool community of people who are all doing the same thing, you know, like everybody who is living and working down there is like New Orleans is like one of the most amazing food and beverage cities in the world. Like, this is like peak career people, you know, like it just was a really cool community of people who are sort of like talking about cocktails, drinking cocktails together, passing cocktails around, stuff like that. So that's probably like, that would be like an average night if we were both off work. But honestly, a lot of the time we're both working.
Yeah. Maybe like a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
That's the off night. That's really interesting. I never heard about that with the like the underground, like passing drinks. That's kind of cool. That's really cool.
It would go in like the little like
Quart deli
containers. Yeah.
Oh, that's when you know it's legit.
Got some tape on top too, and then the cocktail.
Yeah. That's when you know you're like in a chef's kitchen. Like you just have the pint and with the tape with like salt written on it.
Yep.
And I was like, why do you have this? I'm just like, it's better. It makes sense. I can get to it right there. So like during that time in New Orleans and, you know, having people at your house, being entrenched in the hospitality scene, before you came up here, was there any inkling of like the beginnings of Crescent Simples in your mind before you guys made the jump?
Yeah, no, it definitely like started down there. So we started doing it for the distillery that we were working for, and really just sort of like playing with flavors. But for them, we did the blueberry lavender and the strawberry basil, and those were the original two flavors and the first two flavors that we like started bottling for wholesale. And it really came out of like just people being really excited about the different flavors. I mean, I remember there was a point in that French Quarter house where our entire top shelf of our fridge was just taken up with all the different flavors of syrups that we had.
Nice.
And people would come over and, you know, we'd be like, this is what we have this week. And we'd try stuff out. Specifically, I remember like Judy coming over one night and we just like Judy was she was the full-time bar prep person at the distillery. All she did was just like prepping like lime juice, lemon juice, like putting together pre-batch cocktails, like whatever. And she loved to just like get creative with stuff. And so she would come to our house and we would just like make a bunch of cocktails, you know? So like the idea was definitely born there. And then I feel like moving to Virginia, having life slow down a little bit, gave us the opportunity to explore what it could be. And we just started with going to farmers markets and seeing if people were excited about it. And then we actually got approached by Vitae. I'm so bad at the pronunciation on that. I think it's Vitae Distillery. And they asked us if we would be interested interested in wholesaling to them.
Oh, wow.
And so that was when we started being like, okay, like this is something other people want.
What does shelf stabilization look like? You know, how do we go about doing this in a way that is maintaining our level of like creativity and like standard? And we started looking at the market, and there was nothing on the market that didn't have preservatives, and there was nothing that had all fresh fruit. And so we saw a gap, and here we are 6.5 years later.
And there were definitely like, you know, when we were doing it at the farmer's market and not like fully aware of the food science behind it, there were flavors that we made that like we couldn't make now with the way that we run the company. Like, so since we don't use preservatives, we had like a black tea and vanilla flavor, and we can't do that. Like the pH needs to be at a certain level that black tea and vanilla is not going to offer. And so like as soon as we learned about like how to make it shelf stable and whatnot, like there were flavors that dropped off. But I think like what like it makes it harder, but to me it's like this is exactly the way we were making it behind the bar when we were using it behind the bar. And so like that's what we want to stick to.
So coming up here, it was always syrups. It was always fresh fruit. It wasn't like, what else could we do? It was always the idea was
For sure. And like we knew that we knew that there was an opportunity later on to branch out, but we needed to solidify what we were doing, perfect the craft, and then explore those options down the road. And I mean, we started with 6 flavors. We cut the black tea vanilla, and that was born into blackberry vanilla with the acidity from the blackberries. And down the road, we're looking at doing like dried citrus and non-alcoholic bitters and pre-made cocktail mixes. But right now, we just released our newest flavor, and we've got 12 now. So taking up a lot of time.
Yeah, that's awesome. When it comes to like ideating on a flavor, like where does that come from? Where are you drawing from?
A lot of times it is what we are interested in. So when we did our apple spice a couple years ago, people kept requesting pumpkin, and doing pumpkin just isn't an option. It doesn't have acidity. To me, it's not a fruit. Like it's a vegetable. It's not supposed to be sweet.
Is there an argument about that? You said that kind of like you're ready to debate. Like it is not a fruit.
I have strong feelings about pumpkin in drinks. I understand it, but it's just not for us. And so everybody wanted us to do a pumpkin, but for us to do a pumpkin, we would have to get fresh pumpkins. Can't get that year round.
Yeah.
We would have to harvest the pumpkins. We would have to roast the pumpkins to, kind of like break them down. And then we have to cut them all up and then put them in our batches. But when you do that, the pumpkin breaks down and then you have an ugly product in a bottle.
Yeah, it's going to get a really weird texture too.
And then, we'd only gotten to that part. But then the next step is, what does it look like after a year and a half in the bottle? What's that flavor taste like? So when we release a new flavor, it's customer demand, what we're interested in, and does it make sense for the acidity? And so with our new release, our 2 most requested things over the last couple of years have been cranberries and ginger, especially this time of year. And so we were thinking, do we do a cranberry sage? Do we do some sort of like lemon ginger? And then we looked at the acidity of cranberries. Why not just do it together? And it has become incredibly popular in just a month and a half. We are selling it on pace with our top 4 bestsellers.
And we thought it was going to be like, sort of like a fall thing. But I definitely think there's like demand for it outside of that. Like people are just being like, oh, I just want to try the cranberry flavor, and they don't really care what it's paired with. And they don't really think of it as like, oh, this is like for mules in the fall or whatever, So it's been interesting to see like the response to that.
I just remembered what I blanked out on earlier. I was like, I had it and I was like listening. I was trying to listen. I was like, so you mentioned coming here and slowing down. And then what was interesting that you mentioned was how you wanted to take your time to perfect the craft. So was there any sort of like pressure on getting to the market quickly with your product?
I don't necessarily know if it was pressure as much as us just like always pushing. And so we started doing the farmers markets, and I was working full time still in the restaurants. And so we had stable income. We were originally in Charlottesville. I was working at Tavola in the Belmont district. and then, making really good money there. So we were sustaining, and it was just, when you release a consumable product, it has to be perfect, because if you put out a, inferior product, people are going to go elsewhere. And so it was really dialing in the recipes in our own kind of like intestinal fortitude, being like, it has to be right every time.
And I think like, simple syrup is not new. So it wasn't like, like I think specifically like, we can talk about like chili crunch. It's like people are really excited about that right now. And it's becoming like more of a thing that you're seeing like in people's pantry and fridges and whatnot. And I think that's sort of like obviously it's not new either, but it's a more of a like product that people are starting to learn about. Whereas like simple syrup, it's been around, like it's not like anything new. I think what we were offering that was new was just something that was made fresh, no preservatives, whatever. And so I don't think that there was as much pressure of like, oh, we need to get this out or else somebody is going to come in with this idea. And honestly, like it like we are starting to see like people coming into the market using less preservatives, but that is really just starting to happen. Like there was a long time where no matter what, a simple syrup was going to have citric acid in it. And so like I do think that we were wanting to do this idea and willing to spend the extra time on making sure that it was done right significantly before other people started doing it. So I don't feel like there was as much like, okay, like this is happening right now, we need to make it happen.
Yeah, the pressure is real, and I struggle with that sometimes of being quick, but all it takes is one bad review,
Yeah.
one bad review and that sticks, and it's like, oh, I don't like that. And you mentioned your intestinal fortitude with testing flavors. So what is like the green flag? Like it hits all the marks for, okay, we're going to do this flavor. Is there anybody else outside of you two that you provide a flavor to? Yeah.
Yeah. When we released a new flavor, I think when we did our first batch of cranberry ginger this year, I think we did it in like May. I want to say we sent out 30 bottles, friends and family, just tell me it's good. Tell me what you think. Tell me how you're using it. Tell me what we can improve on. Tell me how it's sitting in your fridge. Is there a consistency issue? If it's everybody has a colder fridge, warmer fridge. And so it's tell me all of the things that I can't see. And so for us, like, you got to crowdsource.
We also like gave it to people like Cirrus and Canary Yellow and Wilmington, that like these people who are using a lot of our product, not just like retail stores, but like coffee shops, distilleries, bars, things like that, where we have like a built relationship with them, and basically gave it to them. And we're like, do you think you're going to use this? Like, is this going to go on your menu? And the response is from there, like you can sort of see like if that's a customer demand that they have as well.
Is there like one person that you're like, we have to make sure so-and-so likes it besides outside of you two?
Yeah. For me, it's my best friend's wife.
Yeah.
Caitlin is such a good, she's like such a huge fan of our product. She's always introducing people to it, and she uses it all the time. Yeah. And so like if she's also an entertainer, so like if she's using it at her parties, you're like, okay, I know that like we've got something here.
Yeah. And she won't like sugarcoat it. If she doesn't like something, you'll know by her ordering cycle. And so whenever we send out new things, it's like, give me honest feedback. If it hurts, it hurts. It'll be okay. But we luckily haven't had that happen yet. So
yeah, we did just send her a bottle of cranberry ginger. But I think like people too can give you feedback on like the balance. Like they can say like, yes, this is a good flavor profile and I think it will get used a lot, but like the ginger is not coming through enough for me or whatever. But the thing that's like, we were actually just talking about this yesterday, like people have such different palates. It's been like maybe the most mind-blowing thing, like experiencing that at events and stuff like that. Like the way you'll have a conversation with a customer who comes up and they're like, I don't taste the cranberry in that at all. And then the next customer comes up and it's like, there's way too much ginger, like you just don't, like everyone tastes things differently. And so like at the end of the day, you do have to have like a little bit of self-confidence in your product to just be like, okay, this is when I think it's good. It has a nice balance and I'm ready to move forward with it. And I'm not going to worry too much about what other people are saying.
Yeah, that must be tough. So like what do you lean towards, I guess, like weight of feedback with, because you have bartenders using it and then you have customers. Like, is it kind of an equal 50-50 or do you lean towards?
I lean more towards the people at home. Bartenders are great and they're going to use what they think is best no matter what. I'm giving ourselves an opportunity to do that. But it's the people at home. We put out online orders all across the United States. We put out wholesale orders all across the United States. And it's the people at home that are maintaining our business. And so if they love it, that is definitely going to be weighted a little bit more for us.
Yeah, I agree.
And how do you go about, because I'm a huge proponent on feedback all the time. And one of the things I get annoyed about when people are like, it's great. I'm like, come on.
Give me more than that.
Give me more than that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna hurt my feelings. Tell me it sucks.
Yeah.
So how do you go about collecting consistent feedback now that you're at the spot you're at now?
I definitely think like we have the people we know are going to be honest with us, you know, and like there's definitely like, I think every time you send out a product or have people sample it or whatever, you have the people who like give you those little like, it's good. I used it in this or whatever. And so you just look for those people who are willing to like be a little bit more in depth with you. Also like people who are willing to say like, this is specific, like these are the drinks that I used it in, you know, like just get a little more specific with it. And then you just go, you know, you appreciate that person for that. Say like, I really appreciate that you gave me some more details and that you said like what drink you used it in or whatever. Do you mind if we like continue to use you in the future? And then they get that feedback of knowing like it's okay to say like I didn't like the balance or whatever.
Feedback is a gift for sure.
Yep.
Is there somebody, one of my favorite things is, you know what you should do? So what's like the wildest, like, you know what you should do?
Is there sugar in this?
Yeah.
Oh my God, monk fruit. We get monk fruit all the time.
I do events from here to Chicago to Jacksonville to New York. And every show I go to, at least one person is going to say, is there sugar in this? Well, I can't have sugar. And I'll just say, well, unfortunately, I don't think this product's for you. Or what's a simple syrup? And I'll, give the whole spiel. Not everybody knows everything. And so a lot of the sillier questions are just, they just don't know. And so it's all about education for us. Customer education is the name of the game. If you want them to use your product, you have to give them a reason why.
I also think that like, there are sometimes customer interactions where I think customers feel like every product should be for them. And so they'll have that interaction with you where they're like, well, I can't have sugar. Do you make this? And it's like, no, I don't. But there is sugar-free syrup on the market and it's not going to offend me if you go get that because that's what you need or whatever. And I think like one of the things as a business owner that you have to be able to do is to narrow yourself down and say like, this is what I'm making. I'm going to be great at making this. And I don't have to be for everyone. Like I don't need to fit in every store. I don't need to go home with every single person who walks up. I don't need to make an option for everyone because there is so much on the market. Like it is such a huge marketplace now. Everything that anyone could want is like available to them or somebody's about to come out with it, And so it's just like, I don't need to make the monk fruit syrup. It's okay that I don't. I make the raw cane sugar syrup with fresh fruit. And if that is what you need, like here's a competitor who makes it, like it's okay for me to say I don't do it.
My favorite was with my Sejang chili crunches, didn't like the garlic. And it's like, well, you purchased a Sejang garlic chili crunch. Can you make one without garlic? Like
in the name.
Yeah. I love it. So 6 years together, 6 years with Crescent Simples?
Yes.
Yeah. First sale was July 13th, 2019.
Awesome. So thinking back on that to where you're at now, how does it feel?
Like 100 years and 2 seconds at the same time. I don't know. It definitely feels like it's crazy to me how much has gotten crammed within 6 years. you know, like from like,
Yeah, COVID happened.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about that.
yeah.
That life-changing thing. Like, I forgot about that.
Bill reminded me the other day of like when we first started and we are like doing it for farmers markets and you're like operating under cottage laws, you know, like just seeing if there's a basis for the product you're making or whatever. I'm like every week making exactly the amount of simple syrup that I think we're going to sell that week at the farmers market of like each flavor, you know? So I'm like, okay, so this week I'm going to make 6 large bottles of apple spice and 15 small bottles of apple spice or whatever, because that's what I think we're going to sell. And, you know, like we hadn't made it shelf stable at that point or like hadn't done the research into how to make sure it would be. And just like thinking about that as the start, or like you meeting that customer the other day who was like, I still have a bottle at home that like had the original label that I made
awesome.
in like in designer or whatever. And then like, it didn't even have like a proper like top on it. It had like a little, like, it was like an apothecary bottle. It had like a plug.
Cork.
Yeah.
Nice. Not shelf stable.
Yeah, I was about to say.
So like coarse. Just at the time it was just like, let's just see if people are into it, if we can sell it. Like, cause if you can't sell it at a farmer's market, it's not going to sell, you know? And like, don't invest your time and money into something just because you're excited about it. Make sure other people are excited about it first. And we were very like, let's just, you know, start off minimal and see how it goes. But like having that thought of like, that was like 5.5 years ago. And now we have this like production facility on Main Street. Like that's a crazy amount of stuff to happen.
That's what I meant by immense. Like we went from making $150 on a Saturday at the farmer's market to now I'm doing 5-day shows in Chicago. You know,
that's
and
awesome.
The amount of money that gets invested into doing shows like that up front is just like, I could not have fathomed that at the beginning.
I'm sure like you have these moments too, where you're like, just like the product going in and out and the amount of just like, okay, so like, you know, 2 pallets of bottles are getting delivered today and a pallet of sugar and whatever. And there's like all of this just like continuous movement of things coming in to make it, things going out and whatever, that like if I had told myself at the beginning, I would be like, what? Like,
so when y'all first started actually getting serious about it, was it pretty natural with like the roles that you took in the business?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not a numbers guy and she is meticulous with every number. And so I'm great with people. So sales, marketing, operations. I like to work, and like having a military background, like if there's work that needs to get done, it'll get done no matter what the time frame is. And for her, she's really good at just maintaining organization, and I'm a little bit more chaotic. And so I'm very much like the front facing, I'm the sales guy. I'm going out and pitching and doing deliveries and, you know, lifting all the heavy stuff, whereas she's doing all of the finance and emailing and wholesaling and outreach and bringing in new stores and, you know, making sure that I'm doing the right thing. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like I always tell people, like I work for her.
I mean, but like something we always talk about is the business would not succeed without both of us. And how amazing is it that like we didn't meet trying to be business owners. Like we met just like trying to be people who wanted to date each other, you know, but like ended up having these like 2 totally different skill sets that work so well together. And like we're each so much happier in the roles that we've taken on. Like when I start to do more of what Bill does, where like I start to do events a lot more, like I can feel how much that wears me down. And like, I'll go do like a 3-day show and just be like, oh my God, I've got to like hide in bed for 2 days. Whereas Bill will have a great 3-day show and he'll come home and be like, when's the next one? You know, like, but like, Bill will look at QuickBooks for like 30 minutes and be like, oh my God, like I'm going to die. And I'm like, oh yes. Okay. Let me like spend the whole day doing it, you know? So like, it just worked out really well that like, that's what we wanted to do anyways. And so we haven't had to like have that moment of like, well, I'm going to take this, but that's something Bill would rather do. Like it just naturally divided into like, this is where we're happy. And the business needs both of those things. Like you cannot run a successful business without someone who's willing to go out every single day and pitch to customers. You just can't do it. Like I can do QuickBooks all day. It's not going to make the product sell. But at the same time, Bill could do that and never do QuickBooks, and we would never know like what our profit margin is and stuff like that. Like we need both of us.
So there was never an actual like conversation about like you're doing this.
I mean, there was, but it wasn't so much like we both understood what we're good at. Mm-hmm. There was never a point where I was like, well, let me try and do QuickBooks. You know, like I don't know if I've ever in any accounting or math class, you know, got the right answer when I'm doing a spreadsheet. And so, you know, like it's all about strengths and weaknesses. And I was terrible at sales when I first started, but I like people, and having like restaurant background, you know, as long as I have like a divide between me and them, I can talk to anybody. Now, if I'm like up on a stage trying to talk, I couldn't sell you nothing. But, you know, like it's strengths and weaknesses, you know, you got to go with what you're good at. And I've tried doing some other stuff. Like I can't do social media. I've tried, terrible at it. You know, it's just do what you're good at and do it really, really well.
I do think too, like some stuff takes us by surprise sometimes, you know, like Bill is, like I said, like great at in-person events, but I tend to do really well at wholesale shows. And like, I didn't really expect that. He didn't really expect that. But like, I can get really into like knowing exactly what a fellow business owner is looking for in the product and making sure that the conversation happens quickly and converting it into like, all right, let's get us into your store. And Bill will thrive a lot better with like just tasting the product out, you know? So like we sort of learned that while doing it. And then we're like, okay, so in wholesale shows, Bill needs to be the one passing out the tasting, starting conversations. And then as soon as someone is, you know, indicating a little more interest, they're going to buy, they get passed to me, you know? And so you have those like moments where you're like, oh, I can recognize a strength in my partner or whatever. And so we're just going to say like, this is yours now.
Yeah, I wonder if that goes back to your hospitality background, like talking about like knowing when the customer, like it's almost like very intuitive between you all too. So that's very interesting.
Oh, absolutely. And you can feel the shift in a conversation. Like, you know, I'll do my pitch, you know, all fresh fruit nerd, blah, 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 get all this out. And they're like, oh, these are really good. And I'm like, you know, what kind of store do you have? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, and when they tell me what kind of store they have, I'll know if it's a fit. And if they continue like asking more questions, it'll be one of those things where we'll make eye contact and Meg will start sliding in and doing more of the like, you know, full logistics of this is how we're going to get it there. And then as that conversation kind of moves off, I start the next conversation.
We even like set up our booth now that way, which is like a shift, you know, like in how like we've got this little kiosk where Bill does all the tastings. And then we have a shelf that has every single product that we offer, just like very organized. And so Bill will start them out in the tasting and then we slide them over to me at the shelf and I've got the iPad there. And then it's like, okay, you can look clearly, here's 4 ounce, 8 ounce, 16 ounce, every single flavor. Here's the 3-packs, whatever. And so it makes it really easy to be like, this is a shoppable experience. I'm now here to make a purchase. When they see that shelf, it changes like what they're thinking about. They're no longer like, I'm just tasting this flavor. They're like, okay, I'm shopping for the store. I'm imagining what this looks like there. And so I think like you just sort of like learn those things in the moment, because like when we went to our first wholesale show, it was just like, here's like our farmer's market setup, you know, like
2 tables, tablecloths, and then just like a stand. And now we have like really, really nice wholesale shelves.
That goes back to like what you said earlier about like, of course you need a fork. Like you have your whole system. Like, of course you're going to want to order. Of course you're going to want to see the ounces. Of course you're going to see it organized that way. Like that's
and you want the buyer at a wholesale show to be able to see it on their shelf in their store. And so, you know, kind of painting a picture for them is really, really important, because if they can't picture it in their store, they're not going to buy it. And I'm there to get them to buy.
What's the biggest barrier when it comes to like a buyer coming into like a wholesale, like that you run into consistently that you haven't like shipment.
Shipment.
Yeah, I mean, you know this. You've got a glass product too. Like, it's
And oil. Yeah, glass and oil. I was like, why did we pick glass and oil?
We're glass.
I know, you're right there.
If something breaks, it's not just broken glass. It's sticky broken glass.
Yeah.
It is a disaster.
Yeah.
And UPS, when they break a box, they are happy to just throw the whole box away. And, so our 16 buy boxes, they hold 18 bottles. So if Jared's tossing boxes and it says fragile on it, he doesn't care. And so when one bottle breaks, they throw the whole box out and then it's full on replacement for 18 products. So.
And like, that's something we continually invest in is like, we worked with a local company to make cardboard boxes that we could just slide 6 bottles into. It closes up and then it can ship that way. But those boxes also can fit like all together into a bigger box. So if we have someone who is ordering, 18 bottles or whatever, it can also go into one box as well. But just like making sure that we're thinking about that in terms of like, on wholesale marketplaces like Fair or Air Goods or whatever, like setting up our minimums to work with our packaging and setting up our case sizes to work with our packaging and whatever, so that we can be like, this is going to get to someone in one piece.
Yeah. All about that. Yeah, that's the fun part is the custom corrugated game of, I forgot who we worked with locally for that, but that's definitely when it gets fun. One of the things that I wanted to ask with me and my wife, similar to y'all running businesses, a few businesses, is knowing when to turn it off. Like, we have a child together. She's 8 months old, and dealing with the child, running multiple businesses, it's almost like we forget to say, okay, we're not talking about business anymore. How does that occur with y'all?
Same issues. Like it's just the two of us. The email's connected. Something comes in at 7:00. I want to talk about it. And she's like, we're not working right now. But it's, when you're a small business owner, you're never off. And so problems come up, problems need solved, and people have questions, and sometimes things are time sensitive. So you work and then you turn it off, and then you work and then you turn it off. But at the end of the day, like, we have a really hard time turning it off.
I think that we've gotten a lot better about it. We've gotten a lot better about being able to say to each other, like, I just don't want to do that tonight. And then the other person will be like, cool. And then that's sort of the end of it. But I do think like what tends to happen is like the sort of like flow of just like 2 hours later, you accidentally end up talking.
You're like, but what about?
Or you'll like have an idea, like there are times where like one of us will be like, oh, what if we did this and we like set it up this way, or like this is like a cool marketing idea I had or whatever. And the other person is just like exhausted and like not there. And you're like, oh, I'm so excited. Like, okay, I'm going to take notes in my phone real quick and we'll talk about it tomorrow morning. Like I have a running like note in my phone that's like, talk to Bill about, of just like less important business things of like, let me not bring it up at dinner, but like at some point we need to sit down and go through it.
Yeah, we've had that past couple weeks where we'll just literally, after we put down our daughter, start eating. It's 7:00, and then put our Netflix show on, and then like it's 9 and the show is paused because we were just talking about the whole time of like an idea. Like, did you see what so-and-so's doing? Oh, we could do this.
Yeah.
Or it's just like, please do not talk to me, because I'm the one that's always super excited and always like, oh, we could do this, we could do this. She's like, leave me alone. Do not talk to me about this anymore.
I also think that like it's not always a bad thing. Like I know that there are some people who run businesses together who say like, okay, once we get home, like it's off and we don't talk about it anymore.
Impossible.
Whereas, and I feel like it's something we've like bonded over. It's been formative to our relationship. And so like, it's okay for it to come up outside of business hours, as long as we're both okay with having the conversation at that time.
And I wanted to kind of switch gears here a little bit. And with obviously the non-drinking or non-alcoholic space is growing, do you see a resurgence with the correlation with Gen Z not drinking as much? Do you see a lot of Gen Z customers coming into your base?
I would say that Gen Z seems to be choosing not to drink for financial reasons just as much as health reasons. And so we're not running into a ton of Gen Z customers I still think our customer base is millennial plus.
Mhm.
I would definitely say there's more interest in like exploratory. I definitely think there's more Gen Z customers who are interested in our product for taking it to work. That's something that is definitely like a huge help to us as far as like we'll meet somebody out at a market and they'll be like, oh, I work at this coffee shop or I work at this bar or whatever. And they're like excited and they want to like take it to work or whatever, you know? But yeah, our customer base is definitely still like millennial plus. And I do think that there is a huge shift still in that customer base of being not necessarily like going completely sober, but being a lot more mindful in their drinking. And so they're very excited to see a product that can go either way. You know, like they'll be like, okay, great. When I want to have a mocktail, I can just do this with soda water. It's super easy. When I want to have a cocktail, I can get a little bit fancier and they don't have to buy one or the other. They can use it for both. And I think that is something that like we didn't even necessarily think about that has been so awesome with our product.
Interesting. Nice. Yeah, I see those articles everywhere. They're like not drinking at all. It's like, what's going on? You guys okay?
I think, you know, I think.
How are you dealing with your problem?
Yeah, exactly. Are you not blindingly?
Yeah, I would definitely say they are going into a tough financial world.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I
yeah.
get it.
Yeah, I definitely feel for them big time.
Yeah.
So winding down, I have two more questions that I want to talk about, but really interested because 6 years in a business already is a long time for anybody, especially as two founders together. Was there ever a moment that you ever wanted to quit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Every summer.
Yes.
So
Oh my God.
I find the most frustrating part, not frustrating, but like the most stressful part of business is the down months. Your January, February, your June, July, August. And once you hit Memorial Day, everybody's doing something else. But, you know, we do a lot of our production in the summer because we have all of these beautiful fresh fruit from Agaberry Farms and Carter Mountain. We start bottling our peach right before Memorial Day as soon as they have peaches coming off the trees. But once we get into June, money kind of dries up and wholesale accounts are slower. Less people are going shopping. Everybody's at the beach, grilling out, blah, blah, blah. But then the events that we want to do in June don't account for the lack of foot traffic and charge the same amount. So if you have a $450 show for a 2-day weekend in August, it's going to be the same as it is in, October. And so you're paying more, you're making less, it's still your time. And so June and July, every year, I'm just like, what is happening right now?
And you're spending so much money because it's production season, or we're spending so much money because it's production season, And so we're like, there's so much going out. The shelves are getting so full. And you just like every year we have this like moment where we're like, oh my God, is it all going to sell? Is it going to be okay? Like, is this going to be the last time that this happens? And then every year it sells. And we get to this point in the year where we do this every single year. We'll be like, if we have the space to do extra production during the summer, we have to do it. We just have to keep pushing, even when it feels like it's like we couldn't possibly be more stocked. We just have to keep pushing. And then every year we get to November and we're like, we didn't push hard enough. We didn't make enough product.
Yeah.
Like we should have been doing more or whatever, because we start to get like all of the events are happening, all of the online sales are happening, whatever, and things are really low. And so I feel like you just sort of have to like every year just be like, we've been here before.
Just make it to Labor Day.
We're going to be here again.
Every June,
okay.
It's just make it to Labor Day.
So where's the motivation to keep going?
It's successful. It's really cool. Like we're doing a product that nobody else is doing because it's hard. And we're happy to do it because we like when we work hard. We both love to work hard. And 6 years in, we have 350 stores across the United States that carry our product. We have a very strong customer base locally. We have very strong customer base with all of our friends and family. It's very rewarding. And so it's not a matter of like motivation to keep going for me. It's just like, this is what we do. And it's hard, but it's fulfilling. And we're the syrup people. It's cool.
And none of our friends who like work other jobs have the highs that we have. Like,
Yeah.
yes, granted, they don't have the lows. And there are times when you're low where you feel like, oh, it'd be so nice to just like go to work and like everything's the same every day or whatever. But no one gets to have those moments where you're just like, oh my God, this person just contacted us. Or like, you know, like we just found out that we were going to be in the Imbibe gift guide for the holidays. And like
Nice.
from being bartenders, we read Imbibe like before we even thought about Crescent Simples, you know? And so for us, we were like talking to our PR team. We're like, it's not even about like whether or not it moves the needle. It's just that moment of like, this is something that's been such a part of my life. And now I get to be a part of it and I get to see that. No one working a regular job has that moment, you know? Like, and so like those are the times where you're just like, all right, get over how rough it feels during the summer, you know?
And like hitting again on like the highs. We did a show in the beginning of September in Greenville.
Mhm.
So we did the show in Greenville. We'd never done it before. We'd heard good things. It was like year 16. We took down like, I always take too much. I'd rather bring back an inventory than, you know, miss money. We sold over 900 bottles in 17 hours.
Nice.
That high coming home was just like, we just did that.
Nice.
We just made way over expectation. We just, you know, did all of this. We just introduced our product to so many new people. And those are the points where it's just like, this is why we do it.
Yeah.
That's great. So you have 350 stores or 350 doors now. You have the facility. What's the future look like?
I mean, honestly, I think it's probably more of this, you know, like I think like continuing to grow the amount of stores that are carrying us. I think coffee shops have become really big for us in the past year and we're wanting to continue to explore that.
Yeah.
I think that's such a cool use for our product. And people are getting really more excited about like just different flavor lattes and matchas and whatnot. And I love that. And I want to continue pushing for that. And then eventually, you know, we'll see what things look like outside of simple syrup. You know, I think specifically like garnishes are really cool because it would allow us to use up leftover ingredients. You know, like there's a lot of times where we'll have like 25 limes left over and they can't go into a batch because it's not enough limes for a batch, but like it needs to get used. So being able to do that and just sort of like keep our process even more sustainable would be cool. So yeah, but I think it does. Yeah, it feels good right now. Just continuing to grow it the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't taken any money. It's all ours. There's nobody telling us, you know, the bill comes due. There's no VC firm looking at us being like, what's your growth rate? What is your year over year earning potential? And so, you know, just having it be completely ours and seeing it grow year over year. We're adding 50 to 100 new stores every year at this point. Sales are going up. Prices are going up everywhere. But I mean, at the end of the day, like that's just, you're playing the game. It's rewarding. It's fulfilling. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing.
That's great. Awesome. Well, Megan, Bill, thank you so much today. Really appreciate the conversation and sharing some of your success and a little bit of your background.
Yeah,
as well.
thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
All right.